Keane won 7 Premier League titles with Manchester United. He was captain for 6 of them, plus 2 FA Cups.
There's Keane. It is his trademark from midfield. Strength. And doing that is one of the best you'll find anywhere in the world.
Dynamic, driven, feared, fearless. Roy Keane is a legend of the Barclays Premier League.
Keane on his return with an absolute humdinger.
He joined United from Brian Clough's Nottingham Forest.
He came over from Ireland with a lot of rough edges, and Clough did a lot to polish him up into the rough diamond that Ferguson then purchased.
I remember a back pass he once gave me against Crystal Palace in a cup game, and he left it short, and I come running out my box and miskicked it. And the manager blamed Roy, and Roy ran off the pitch at the end of the game, and the manager was waiting for him, and apparently he punched him in the stomach.
Clough hit him in the dressing room, and Keane afterwards admitted that in fact he probably deserved it. He bore no malice at all, and learnt from the great man, Clough.
At Forest, in the Premier League's first season, Keane was Player of the Year in a relegated team.
We knew we weren't going to keep hold on to Roy, because he was too good to be played in the division below.
He had a choice. Well, to start with, he didn't have a choice. There was Blackburn, who were the moneybags of the era with Jack Walker's millions. As part of buying a team with Alan Shearer in it as its focal point, they wanted Roy Keane, and they'd agreed a fee.
So the story goes, he was in Kenny Dalglish's house, in his company, when he got a phone call from Alex Ferguson.
Of course, everyone knows that by the time you're in the presence of the great manager with those piercing eyes looking at you, it's very difficult to say no, and indeed Keane didn't, and he signed for United.
I think the manager had actually asked about what the older players thought of him. The older players had said, yeah, he's been the best player in the league, and I think you should go and get him, and I think that's one of the reasons the manager went out and bought him.
He doesn't know this, but everybody was buzzing to have him there. We knew that he was a special player. We knew that he loved to have a bit of a moan, but we knew that he could produce the goods week in, week out, and we knew he was a winner.
To go out, spend that kind of money on a boy who's barely off the boat from Ireland and has been relegated that season, that tells you they have seen something not just special, but possibly superhuman in him.
Big gamble on such a young lad, but it paid off, and the perfect signing. We knew that it would be anyway, but we had no doubts that Manchester United were the right club for him.
I think there's nothing worse than arriving at a big club for the biggest of all fees, as it was at the time, and struggling to make an impact, because then I think doubt creeps in.
He got off to an absolutely perfect and fantastic start as a Manchester United player, because he scored twice on his home debut against Sheffield United and instantly took the acclaim of the Manchester United supporters.
United need to get the ball down on the floor. Lovely little flick from Giggs. Onside Roy Keane, and the first goal for Manchester United for Roy Keane on his home Premiership debut.
I don't think he ever looked back after that. But he wasn't really one of those players where, you know, well, didn't that help him settle in? He just seemed to find home straight away, had the respect of the other players straight away.
And that's what you call being an instant hit.
He'd already become an established part of that Manchester United team. He became a real fan's favourite and a hero of the Stretford end when he scored the winner against Manchester City at Main Road.
United had played at Galatasaray midweek and been knocked out of Europe, so we went to Main Road and all the Manchester City fans were throwing bars of Turkish delight over the segregated area.
They were 2-0 down against their rivals when they staged a magnificent comeback. This was at the height of Eric Cantona's influence in that Manchester United team. He scored twice, but Roy Keane slid in at the far post to score the winner for United.
United are asking a lot of questions now.
And I sort of pegged it over to Keane, and as I've gone to jump up to him, he's sort of ducked down, and I've sort of gone straight over his shoulder, and he's caught me around the waist as I've nearly flown over his shoulder and had to pull me back down. It was a bit unpredictable, celebration-wise.
I think that was the final confirmation that Manchester United had a new favourite son.
That's what Alex Ferguson paid for.
Brian Robson was, as midfield players go, was one of my favourites ever. You know, he could get up and down, he could score goals. He defended, he headed, he kicked, he tackled. The ultimate midfield player, really.
Keane came to United because he was probably as close as what we'd already had with Brian Robson.
He never made a difficult pass when an easy one would do, but he's perfectly capable of making a great pass. He had a tremendous engine, as people say, and he got up and down. He was a great defensive player. I think he would have made a great centre-half because he read the game so well and he's physically so strong and such a good tackler. Alf-Inge Haaland may not agree with me, but he was a great tackler. He also got forward and was a really good finisher. Keane was just a brilliant, brilliant footballer.
I would say he's the best player I've ever seen passing the ball 15 yards through the gaps in midfield to his strikers. He always looked forward and he punched those balls in with such pace and ferocity. A world-class performer.
I mean, Brian Robson was a big one for Manchester United, and they couldn't believe that they'd found another player of that ilk. I don't think they have since, and it'll be a long, long time before you find one again.
We played against him, obviously, but never really been introduced to him until he came in the dressing room. And obviously, seasons past, he's kicked lumps out of every one of us. He's been aggressive, he's argued, he's shouted. And when we walk in, the lads are like, do you want to knock us out or do you want to play with us? It's like, how do we take him?
I mean, he's a pretty frightening kind of guy, Roy. He was a tremendous amateur boxer. He clearly likes a row. But, you know, let's not hide from that.
And certainly, you know, players not scared of him, but certainly, you know, were aware of his aura.
He demanded the best from people around him, and if you didn't, then that's when you actually saw the temper come out in him.
You used to be commentating on matches and you'd see off the ball him berating a player, his teammate. But it was only because he knew that player could do better, show better, and he was frustrated.
Most amenable people you would meet 5 days a week, training, and then Saturday turn into this beast that had to win.
There was one in Europe where we were chasing out, I think we were drawing, and we were looking for a winner away from home. And I've sort of got the ball on the left, and I've sort of gone past a couple of people, and then I've cut it back to Keane, who's side-footed it in and scored the winner, or put us in the lead. And he's sort of come over to me, and I'm expecting him to give me a big hug and smile, and he didn't. He was the most aggressive, and he came up to me and he grabbed my shirt like that, and I grabbed his shirt, and he just shook me and went, yeah, and just went absolutely nuts. I thought he was going to headbutt me at one point. He was so aggressive, I could see the passion in it, and his eyes had sort of gone, and I was like, oh my God, he's scary, scary man.
I think it worked in our favour a lot of the time because I think the opposition were fearful of him.
McAteer. Friendship's forgotten here.
It didn't matter about the calibre of the opposition or the opponents on the field. He had to play football on the edge, and that's the way he played it.
Back header by Butler. And Keane got McAteer. Now what's Uriah Rennie going to do here? He's sent Roy Keane off. It's another chapter to the story.
Whenever we were out and he was getting a bit, how do I put it nicely, whenever he was getting a little bit aggressive with people when we were out and he'd had a couple of drinks, and it was always Bruce and Robert that came up to me and sort of said, Sharpie, can you sort your mate out? And I'm like, well, you're the team captain and you're one of the aggressive players in one of the hardest in the team. Why do I have to go and sort him out?
There aren't many people that have stood up to Roy Keane on a football pitch over the years. A few have and have got the marks to show it. So therefore I think honourable mention goes to the referee, David Ellery, because of the 11 red cards that Keane received in Manchester United's colours. He had 12 in his career, but 11 with United. 4 of them were issued by the schoolmaster from Harrow, and 2 of them in FA Cup semi-finals at Villa Park. So he certainly didn't take a backward step where others did.
Well, it's his second yellow card, and that means Keane is dismissed.
I think it's easy to overestimate this anger and this temper. There were flashes of it, but mostly it was grim determination, and let's be honest about that. When he did get the better of him, he tended to get red cards. The rest of the time, I think he was pretty controlled and emotionally in charge of himself, albeit highly charged.
Just there, watch, bang.
Yep.
He wanted to, didn't he? Just held it back.
All he wanted to do was win. He wanted to win trophies. He was a winner. And Sir Alex Ferguson knew that, and that's why he had him on the pitch.
There were occasional times where you could say he let down the team, but I think it's important to remember that there were many, many, many times where he single-handedly dragged Manchester United through.
He's certainly a character, to put it nicely.
Sent off 11 times in his Manchester United career, Roy Keane. But you'd want him in your side, that's for sure.
Turned by Keane, and that's a brilliant goal!
On the field, Roy Keane was inspirational. Off it, he was just as captivating.
As a fan, he's the best midfielder I've ever seen. As a journalist, he's probably the best person that I've ever interviewed.
He always looked me in the eye, and whatever he was saying to me, I knew was an honest answer. From the heart.
There are a few players who, when they enter a room, literally it changes and like that.
When you'd been interviewing Roy over the years, you knew when he had something to get off his chest, a little twinkle in his eye. And halfway through this answer, he started saying about the group of supporters who, you know, given Mikel Silvestre a little bit of stick, and how the atmosphere wasn't the best tonight, and they hadn't had the support necessarily they always get. And he said, you know, you've still got the proper fan. And he just came out and said, but some of them come to the game, they have their prawn sandwiches and go home.
That was the moment when I think the English football realised that it actually changed from the man on the terraces going to watch their team week in, week out, to a different kind of culture where football supporters were now arriving at games 3 hours early, that instead of going to the pub, that they were actually going to the executive box where they have a long lunch, the fine wine would be flowing, and then the football was almost incidental to that, and Roy Keane just didn't like that.
For these outsiders to come, to pay to watch football through glass, to not even smell the grass, to hear the players grunting and groaning, to hear the crowd, and then to top it all, they're not even eating a meat pie.
And it makes me smile now when you go to games and you hear people saying, oh, I'm going to join the prawn sandwich brigade, and you think, well, yeah, that all came from that night with Roy Keane and that interview.
Where he grabbed that phrase from, I'll never know. But let's not kid ourselves. If Dickens had written it, we'd be saying, oh my God, get that man an award.
And it shows what a bright individual he is. I mean, let no man tell you that Roy Keane is some thick footballer. He's a very, very bright individual with a razor-sharp wit and intellect. It's just that he doesn't like to show it very often. But Prawn Sandwich Brigade is a phrase that will stand the test of time. I mean, it's been with us 10 years, it'll be with us in 50.
Keane became Manchester United's most successful captain and led them in the season of their historic treble in 1999.
There'll be no more losing FA Cup finals. There'll be no more winning leagues once. They're going to win them 2 times and even 3 times in succession. And of course, over that 20 years, Manchester United have had to see off Liverpool's tradition, Arsenal's football and Chelsea's money. And the chosen vehicle of that was a team captained by Roy Keane.
I have to say, I really enjoyed playing with Roy Keane in midfield. He's a terrific player, first and foremost, but an exceptional leader as well.
Even as a young player, an experienced side would be telling the senior players what he thought they should do. And leaders are born that way, and it was just quite natural to him.
There are a number of ways you can lead teams, and increasingly in the era of millionaire young footballers and psychology and all the rest of it, people try to befriend them. Look at Mourinho, the way he befriends footballers and they become his ultra mate, and he's their trendy mate, and they don't want to let him down. But Roy Keane is not going to do that.
Didn't have phone numbers of any of his teammates. He wasn't the kind of captain who organised bonding sessions and get-togethers. Wasn't interested.
So he had to lead by another way, and he did it by example. If there was an effort to be made, if there was a run to be pursued, if there was a ball that needed hunting down, if there was a position that needed covering, it was Roy who did it. With that, he bought himself the right to say to players who were, in 1 or 2 cases, more technically gifted than him, your Scholeses, your Beckhams, the right to say, no, that's how that needs doing.
He was an extension of Sir Alex himself on the pitch. If you look at that era of Manchester United games, the number of late goals they scored to either draw a game that was lost or win a game that was drawing. And Roy Keane would never allow that United side to rest.
His feuds have become part of Premier League folklore.
Possibly one of the best personal duels for 2, 3, maybe even 4 seasons. Seasons in, season out. Were the Manchester United-Arsenal games when they were the two teams challenging. And it was Keane against Vieira. It was pure theatre.
Keane and Vieira clash. Giggs in possession. And the referee saw what went on there between Keane and Vieira. How was he going to deal with it? Well, I'm afraid...
And Keane was theatre. And they both played up to it. And that day in the tunnel when Graham Poll had to stand between them at Highbury before they came out for an Arsenal-Manchester United game, it helped create the legend of the Premier League. I mean, it's one of the iconic moments. The two of them, basically wanting 15 rounds to sort it out rather than...
Patrick Vieira.
I remember a game at St James's Park against Newcastle where he swung for Alan Shearer, didn't actually make any contact and was sent off. And Manchester United lost that game 4-3. That certainly affected the team.
Keane was sent off here last year in the 3-0 win. And Roy Keane gets a red card again.
In September '97, Roy Keane was injured at Ellen Road and ruptured his cruciate ligament against Leeds United. The Leeds player Alf-Inge Haaland, who'd been involved in the tackle, looked over Roy.
But Haaland accuses him, in Keane's mind at least, of faking it. In fact, of course, he's not faking it, and he misses, I think, 7 months of that season, 97-98.
Keane injured himself in the first place and was out for a season trying to injure Haaland.
Roy Keane missing was a big part in Manchester United not winning a trophy that season.
And Keane vowed from that moment on that he would take retribution. Well, that's exactly what he did.
The first time he played against him since was the Manchester derby.
Obviously I was Man City manager and I remember it like yesterday.
Now can they hold on to it? Keane involved here, now this is interesting.
And it was a horrendous tackle. It was premeditated. He couldn't even say that it was slightly mistimed. He knew exactly what he was doing.
David Ellery has sent off Roy Keane. Never mind lightning striking 4 times. Oh, that's why. Right over the top. And he's got to go for that.
But Keane didn't leave the field until he'd wagged his finger in Haaland's face and told him exactly what he thought of him.
Some would say it's one of the most disgraceful incidents in Premier League history, the fact that Keane went out and deliberately did Haaland, as he then admitted. Why did he admit it?
Obviously Roy Keane had harboured this thought and waited for his time.
Sent off, by the way, for the 8th time in his Manchester United career. And I cannot believe that anybody who sees that could possibly argue.
His greatest performance ensured United's treble-winning season remained on track.
The best moment of Roy Keane's career is his performance in the 1999 Champions League semi-final.
The game in Turin, where Manchester United came from 2-0 down to win 3-2, was the best individual performance I have ever seen.
Juve at that time was one of the real powerhouses in European football and had won the Champions League 2 occasions.
He's playing against Zinedine Zidane, Edgar Davids, 2 of the most influential, 2 of the outstanding midfielders in European football at the time.
He got a yellow card in the 11th minute, I think it was. Knew he would miss the final if Manchester United made it.
Even though he knew he wasn't going to make the final, didn't matter to him. All he was focused on was Man United winning that game.
Most of us would be sorry for ourselves, the lip will be going, a bit like Paul Gascoigne if you like, and people will be saying, watch out for him. No one had to watch out for Roy Keane.
Showed unbelievable single-mindedness, put the team first, scored the goal, got them going, got them to the European Cup final.
Even the Italians, who are quite cynical and very patriotic about their team, stood and applauded him as he went off the pitch. They saw a warrior, a gladiator, someone who gave everything for the team. And remember, it was about the team then, and no one could say it wasn't. It wasn't about Roy Keane. That was about Manchester United. That was about the team.
His character, his desire, his determination, his will to win, his inspirational performances on the field, put all his attributes together, it made him the very best.
Because he was this character at times, this snarler, but ultimately he was just a winner. And that's where he mirrored Sir Alex Ferguson. He wanted to win, and nothing else mattered.
Phil Neville. Oh, Keane in acres of space. 2-0. Roy Keane. 2-goal cushion for Manchester United.
It was Keane who was the heart and soul of that team. The fans may have had better icons to stick on their shirts and things, particularly with Cantona with a collar and all the rest of it, and Beckham and Schmeichel. There were many in that team, Giggs even. But the heart of that team, the beating heart of it, was Roy Keane.
And here's Roy Keane, and it's finally in.
I've not seen a player since him that has that much influence and drive on the rest of a squad, a team, a dressing room.
Keane has slipped home the winner, surely.
The aura will never fade. You see players, they get old, they get a bit out of shape, they lose their hair, and you think, yeah, they're human. It doesn't matter what Roy Keane looks like, he'll still be Roy Keane, he'll still always be superhuman, and that's one of the things about him which just sets him apart.
He was just a warrior.